I just want to say we're so passionate about classic movies.
We're going to expand the conversation.
You can see the passion that's in this room.
It's thrilling to the core.
Put a new spin on some vintage films.
It's classic movies and more.
Great. I have to ask you, okay, so I know that you have an artistic side, that you learned how to sing, you learned this and, you know, acting, this and that. Now, Judy, clearly one of the most phenomenal singers that has ever lived.
One of?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to upset people. You know, I know that Frank Sinatra is phenomenal. Ella Fitzgerald, but I know what you're saying. She had a talent like no other. But did she ever give you any tidbits?
She did, in that when I was, again, little, I had trouble pronouncing my L's. So I just couldn't get the tongue placement properly. And back then, I don't know if there were speech therapists, but Dot understood that there was a difference between singing and speaking. So at some point in time, she asked Judy to teach me a little bit, hoping that in singing I could get the L's out properly, and that's what happened. And she would sit by, again, my record player, and put on one of the two records, and I would learn the songs, you know, Judy on one side, me on the other, and she would just give me little, she would sing and try to get me to, you know, be on pitch and that kind of, which I was, and no problem, you know, she and Dot would start arguing though about certain points. As I got older, vibrato was one of them. But certain little things, I would do something, or I might deliberately blow a lyric just to see what would happen. Dot, it was hard for Dot to get from the kitchen through the hallway, turn the corner, all with her walker, and turn the other corner into my room. So she would be in the kitchen, Judy and I would be in my room, and I would hear Dot yell out, "That's not how to do it!" You know, and Judy would laugh and I would do it right, you know, that kind of thing. But
Can't even imagine.
It was fun. It didn't happen all the time. I mean, I was young. I couldn't even tell you how often she was there. But it was an extremely special occasion whenever Judy was there or she was on the phone.
She was memorable.
Extremely memorable. Just because the two of them enjoyed each other so much. You know, I got, even at a young age, that there was something between the two of them that wasn't there with the others. I mean, they were very close. Dot and Joan Blondell were best friends. Stanwyck, they were all very close and would confide in each other and this kind of thing. But Judy, there was just something extra special there. They had this closeness that you could not get in the middle of, kind of thing. And it was very much a mother and daughter thing. Judy would defer to Dot, you know, and years later when I got older and would watch her in interviews and things, I would say, wow, that's not who was sitting at my kitchen table, because she, you know, she could be a tough cookie if she had to be, obviously. You know, she had to take care of herself. But with Dot, it was just different.
Wow. I think I've said wow probably 50 times during this interview, but wow with a capital W-O-W. So, you know, just so that everyone's aware, can you just give us, I mean, a sampling of the movies that Dot worked on, the Judy Garland movies? Yeah.
I believe she started with Meet Me in St. Louis, although I never totally asked Dot about that, although George Folsey would come to visit, who was the cinematographer, and he and she would sit there and discuss angles and lighting and shots and how they did what they did. It was fascinating. Based on a few things Dot told me, I have a feeling she was around for a few earlier movies, although she may not have done the makeup, but she knew certain things about presenting Lily Mars and For Me and My Gal. So I don't know if she was actually there or not. It just never occurred to me to ask. But everything after Meet Me in St. Louis, she did. Meet Me in St. Louis, Harvey Girls, Easter Parade, In the Good Old Summertime. Dot had a wonderful story about working with, and this is why I think she was there earlier, because she and Judy were doing something, and it was a picture that Franny Bryce was on, and I don't remember which one. Okay, I really don't. But it had to do with the start of the war, not the movie, but the timing. And Dot told me that Fanny didn't show up to work one day, and they wanted to know where she was. You know, and Judy said, and this was very early in their relationship, because Judy, come with me, we're going to go to Fanny's house, and Dot said, you know, we can't do that. We can't leave a lot, you know. Dot was by the book, and Dot did it. She was told. She was, you know, a little kid from Chicago, and she knew she had to behave herself. So, but when Judy was around, you didn't always have to behave yourself. So Judy says, we're going. And they went to Fanny Brice's house in Beverly Hills. And they walk in, and they are met with the sight of Fanny Brice and a butcher that she had gone to downtown LA and gotten this butcher, along with several carcasses of cows in particular, and the butcher had them hanging in her kitchen, and she was worried that there wouldn't be enough meat. She wanted to be able to feed her children, Fanny Brice. So she had the butcher in the kitchen slicing up these carcasses and putting them in this giant freezer so she would have, because she was concerned about the war. And I thought that was amazing. Even when I was a little kid, I mean, we never had to worry about food, you know, and it never occurred to me that people would actually worry about that. But anyway, Dot and Judy looked at each other, and there's Fanny Brice, this world-renowned star, and she was also a wonderful lady. A lot of people don't know. She was not the traditional Jewish character that people think she was. She was a very elegant woman, dressed beautifully, spoke beautifully. And here she is in the kitchen with the butcher and the blood and the cow hanging from the dead cow hanging from the rafters. And she and Judy looked at each other and just started to crack up. And Dot said at that point she knew she had a partner in crime.
Wow, that's fun.
But yeah, everything else, summer stock, in the good old summertime, all of them. Yeah. All of them. She went with Judy on several promotional tours to Chicago, to New York, by train.
So she was with her through the concert. She would do her makeup for concerts as well?
Not only through 1951. Okay. She was with her for her Palladium tour, as well as all the United Kingdom, France. They took a side trip to France. I don't know if Judy performed there, but Scotland. And then that's when she got sick after she came back.
So was your aunt then, well, clearly she got into the Union because everyone fought for that. Was she signed to MGM or any studio?
In the beginning, she was under contract to Paramount, which I have yet to find. I've had some archivists looking for it. She had to submit her contract, her Paramount contract, to the Union. Nobody can find it. So, and I have no idea where it is. But she was under contract to Paramount. When her contract started running out toward the end of the 30s is when a lot of the stars started branching out to other studios. That's when Dot started to freelance. And to answer your question, no, to the resentment of several people in the crew, who I will not name. But over at MGM, Dot was not under contract at the studio itself. She was under private contract to Judy Garland, and I have that contract.
Oh my gosh.
I have the signed contracts that she was to work on everything Judy did. That's not saying that she didn't work with other people. I have talked to many other people who were at MGM. Angela Lansbury, Margaret O'Brien, Catherine Grayson, Betty Garrett, June Lockhart, even Debbie Reynolds, who actually told me she was coming in as Dot was going out, kind of thing. But they all had wonderful things to say about Dot. And Dot was very generous of her time and her talent. And even when she wasn't required to, she would stay and work with other people.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, I mean, clearly, clearly there's a wonderful legacy that your aunt has left. Now, since she was primarily behind the scenes, but clearly worked with every star that you could possibly imagine. Do you feel that, how do you feel the recognition is for her now? Is there any way we can learn more about her? Where can we find out more about her, and how do you feel about her legacy?
I don't think it's enough yet, which is what I'm working on. She was recognized at the time because there were many newspaper articles about her during the 30s. Lone female makeup artist conquers the star, that kind of thing. Right. Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons both wrote about her extensively, as did international columnists. But it kind of waned after that, and Dot was never one to blow her own horn. I didn't know until I talked to Margaret O'Brien that Minnelli had Dot design part of the sequence, the Halloween sequence, in Meet Me in St. Louis. I never knew that because Dot just didn't brag about herself. You know, she was very proud of her talent and where her talent had gotten her. This little unknown young woman from Chicago who came out here to make a living and ended up, you know, being a rather indispensable part of major Hollywood stars. But she never would go out and really build herself up to that degree. However, I did discover that she has been written up in several books on Minnelli, on Dietrich, on Mae West. There are others. And what I would like to hope what could happen now is that through my talking to people and bringing out some of the pictures, the photographs of the people she did, as well as trying to get her memoirs published, that I can make people aware of not only her talent, but her lifelong struggle to be recognized as a woman makeup artist and to not be discriminated against, even as late as toward the end of her career. I have inter-office memos that went through MGM advising her to watch her back because so-and-so is out to get you. And Dot knew this. She told me the story of Vincent Minnelli, who was going to direct Jennifer Jones and Madame Bovary, had asked Dot to do the test. And Dot said, I'll do the test, but I won't be able to do the makeup. And Vincent said, why not? And Dot mentioned some names and said, there's a movement to get me out again, and they won't let me work on this. And so Dot did the test, and I read that Jennifer Jones looked fantastic, but she wasn't able to do the movie. So it was all during her entire career. From 1929 to 1951, she was struggling. You know, yes, she was recognized, and yes, she was sought after, but there were factions always that were against her.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's an amazing story. I know we concentrated more on Dottie than your dad, but again, two really, how do I say, icons in Hollywood, behind the scenes, okay? But nonetheless, extremely important in the golden age of Hollywood and beyond, in that what fabulous careers. And now I know when I'm watching movie credits, now I'm seeing your dad's name every so often. I saw a movie the other night, and I saw your dad's name. I'm like, oh my gosh! So it's making me more aware of this. I don't typically look at everyone behind the scenes, but they are part of the Hollywood machine and part of the stars. So it's wonderful to hear these stories. I can't thank you enough for coming here and sharing these wonderful stories.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed
I'm
it.
living vicariously through you because I can picture, your aunt's kitchen and the drawer without the handle, and I can picture you on the phone with Judy and hanging up on her. So living vicariously through you, and I hope that everyone out there have enjoyed some of these marvelous stories. I know I have. I could sit here forever and talk to Meredith. So thank you for your time. This is Annmarie from Classic Movies and More, and again with my very special guest, Meredith Ponedel.